Okay, good evening, everyone, and happy Ramadan. This is me again, Dr. Sameh, and this is 8.A230A. We're doing the class in the afternoon, after iftar, for Ramadan reasons, of course. So what is it that we're doing tonight? We're finishing off the Duchess of Malfi. The MTA is coming up soon, and it's going to cover only the Duchess of Malfi and Othello, together with the background to DH. So how much do we still remember about the Duchess of Malfi? We've been doing it for quite some time now. We spoke about, again, this idea of hierarchy, this idea of established order that people should kind of follow and honor, and the consequences should you not do that. Not following the order, challenging the established order, um, is not without its dire consequences, as we have seen with Othello, and as we have been hinting at in the Duchess of Malfi. In terms of where we are in the play, we see events unfold, but we haven't seen the Duchess suffering for her actions yet. All what we have been talking about so far in Act One and part of Act Two was the idea of preparing us for the bombshell. The bombshell here, like I always say, is the fact that Antonio is getting married to none other the Duchess herself, and obviously this is big deal. Why? Because the Duchess is on top of the social ladder, and Antonio is a lowborn, and he is at the bottom. So for them to get married, to fall in love, and then subsequently get married is a no during or at the time. So for them to insist, for them to kind of marry against all odds, this is obviously um, an error or a mistake or a miscalculation that they will have to pay the price of. Again, nothing is more fitting than the dramatic framework that we call tragedy, because it's this idea people are happy at the beginning, but you know the trajectory. We're moving from happiness and fortune to adversity and misfortune at the end, where the perpetrators, where the transgressors are punished. And this is actually uh, um, what we're expecting. We haven't gone that far yet, but we can almost tell if we know that the Duchess is the tragic heroine, um, and we know that this is a tragedy. You can almost tell that she, first of all, is going to do something wrong, fatally wrong, obviously, and she will have to pay for that. Um, from the revelations, from what we have been seeing and hearing and reading, and because we have ears enough and eyes enough, we know what actually happened without going that far. We know that of all the people in the world, she has chosen Antonio for a husband, and Antonio is lowborn. Again, if we have this piece of information, we know that she's not going to get away with it. Her family, and by her family, I mean her two brothers, are going to take revenge through Busolo. Busolo is going to act on their wishes, and he is going to kill her, as we're going to see. What else did we say so far? We spoke about the fact that the play is not only a tragedy, it is a revenge tragedy, and revenge tragedies have their own conventions. One of those conventions would be the idea that you have a lot of bloodshed. Yeah, then this happens or happened in Othello, and we're seeing it happening soon in the Duchess of Malfi, where everybody is going to kill everybody else. Yeah, it becomes like a carnage or a rampage, or you call it whatever you want. Again, among the characteristics of a revenge tragedy would be the idea of having plays within plays, a play within a play. And normally the play within the play is done in silence. You have more or less like a pantomime kind of thing where the expressions of the body and the face are sometimes more telling than the words and than speech itself. And this is something we're going to go to tonight, inshallah. Revenge tragedies are also about certain props that people use. They use Bibles, and those Bibles are sometimes, poisoned. You have, of course, persecution of women, among other characteristics. What else did we see or talk about? This is very important as a matter of fact, because the play is about a royal court, which is the Malfi court. We spoke about governance and good governance and the lack thereof. We spoke about what happens in the Malfi royal court and what happens in the French royal court. And we have heard Antonio speak very admiringly and very lovingly about the French royal court, where the king is wise, the king is only surrounded by good counselors, the king considers himself, fulfilling the wishes of God, fulfilling the will of God in being a good, governor, in being, in spreading justice, and in making sure that his citizens are prosperous. Uh, Whatever is said about the French royal court is obviously lacking in the Malfi court, where there is corruption, where there is nepotism and cronyism, where you know the only language that people understand in the royal court of Malfi is violence and conspiracies, um and inside dealings. Again, Antonio also used a very vivid analogy when he compared, governments to common fountains. So if the common fountain is pure, if it's clean, the entire society will be also good, prosperous, stable. So governments are like that. Royal courts, according to him, are either pure common fountains or they are the opposites. Um, Again, we need to also perhaps shed more light on the character of Antonio, because Antonio assumes a big space in the play, especially in the first act. Again, preparing us for the unexpected. The unexpected, again, is this marriage that everybody else refers to as forbidden. Forbidden marriage because of the lack of compatibility. The fact that the queen or the duchess is on top of the social ladder, while Antonio is at the bottom. Again, one way of overcoming that would be the idea that Antonio won the heart and the mind of the Duchess by his hard work, by him being politically savvy, by him being a good judge of characters, but by him being honest and forthcoming. Things that another low-born Busola lacks. So when you come to know that the Duchess have or has chosen Antonio of all the other people, you know that he has merit. Again, that brings us to the idea of meritocracy, where people get jobs and they get promoted and they kind of move socially upwards because of what they do, not what they have in terms of money, in terms of their family reputation, no, or in terms of wealth. We have a new kind of system evolving and emerging, which is the idea of merits. And this is a societal change we're seeing happening in the Jacobean age. Let's go to the slides and see what we have in store, unless you guys have questions before we proceed. Do you guys have any questions? Okay. This is the last part that we stopped on, the idea of gender confusion. We spoke long and enough about it. We have this role reversal where the Duchess is doing stuff that you expect of a man, and Antonio does stuff that you expect of a woman. What are some of the things that the Duchess did that bring about this kind of gender confusion? The fact that she is the one who proposed, the one who is started to kind of engage in this courtship with Antonio. She's the one who told him, point blank, that she's in love with him and that she wants to get married to him. She's the one who even put the ring on his fingers. Again, on the other hand, you would have Antonio, um, portrayed as being coward. In normal circumstances, this is not a coward, but when it comes to this, kind of tricky relationship, he is fearful of the backlash and the reaction of the two brothers, and he keeps asking her what happens if your brothers know, and she reassures him. So the one who is doing the reassurance is the Duchess when in normal circumstances, you would be expecting the man to be doing the reassurance. So this is a complete reversal of roles, of gender roles, like we said. And then this was the end of Act One, and now we're moving to Act Two. Act Two has this idea of discovery. What do we mean by discovery, and who is discovering what? What do you think? Any idea? So part of any tragedy is the idea of discovery. So discovery is about something gets revealed. It wasn't known and it is now known. What do you think this is, judging from what we know about the play? What was the big secret? Obviously, the big
The, ma-
secret was, yeah, go ahead. Yes.
the marriage between Antonio and Duchess.
Yeah, absolutely. The marriage between Antonio and the Duchess. This is obviously, they kept it a secret for obvious reasons. The fact that they cannot go and tell everybody that we're marrying, because everybody's going to say, no, this is not the right union, because you are a Duchess and he is a low-born steward. So in order to avoid all of that, and also in order to avoid the backlash of the two brothers, they married in secret. Somehow, Ursula is going to spy on them, and he gets to know that they got married. So the one who discovers the marriage is obviously Buscema. And what is it that he's going to do with this kind of discovery? He is going to go and tell the two brothers. Let's see what will happen when the two brothers know. What do you think? Do you think they will be happy about that? The two brothers? What kind of
Of
reaction
course,
are we expecting? Yeah,
angry.
what do you? Ah, absolutely angry, right? Outraged. I mean, they are going to be angry beyond anger, if you like. Mm. So 9 months passes between Acts 1 and 2, and the bulk of the second act is taken up with Busola's attempt to determine whether or not the Duchess is pregnant. So it's two stages. The fact that he has to make sure that she got married, and then after that, he also need to know whether she is pregnant. So at the close of Act 2, Scene 2, we hear that she has given birth to a son. The play then highlights not only her role as Duchess, but also her role or roles as wife and mother. So we see different facets of the same Duchess. At one point, she was the monarch, the sitting Duchess or Queen. Now she is a wife and she has a mother. Obviously, they are going to try their best, their level best to keep the idea of marriage secret, and also the idea of them having a child. By the end of the act, Ferdinand and the cardinal have received Bussola's letter informing them of the birth of the Duchess' son. Obviously, the two brothers are going to be furious, not only angry, they are going to be furious at the news. And again, they are going to vow and promise and pledge to take revenge. But before they do that, they are going to kind of spell out some misogynist, you know, ideas about women. They are going to give vent to misogynist commonplaces. Again, what is also noticeable about the reaction of the two brothers is that Ferdinand's anger seems to be different from that of the cardinal. The cardinal is shocked, that's fine, and is angry, but it doesn't go beyond that. He is very angry, it is true, but his anger is not pathological. At the end, he will come to terms with the idea, but obviously, this does not set well with Ferdinand. Ferdinand's anger is beyond description. So the cardinal is, even the cardinal is shocked by his brother's ravings as any member of the audience, and his alarmed responses confirm that Ferdinand's attitude to the Duchess is obsessive and pathological. So it's Ferdinand's anger, as we're going to see, is quite shocking for everyone because it's anger like no other. It's anger that is a mix of jealousy, perhaps possessiveness, disbelief, and all those kinds of things. And we have examples of just that even before he got to know about this kind of Mary Ferdinand. At one point, he was quoted as saying that he would not have her marry again. Obviously, this blanket hostility to a second marriage goes beyond anything voiced by the cardinal, who is much more concerned about the prospect of an inappropriate union. So the cardinal is worried and concerned about this what if she marries somebody below her rank. This is his main concern, but for Ferdinand it's a totally different story. He's so angry and he is so entangled of thoughts and feelings about the Duchess. Webster arouses our curiosity about Ferdinand's motives, giving us a glance if the turbulent, unstable personality Antonio mentioned earlier in the scene, if this is true or wrong. And obviously, Antonio was right in his assessment and judgment of the character of Ferdinand. And even when they face the two brothers face the Duchess, obviously Ferdinand is more aggressive and his language is more compulsively sexual. Over time, you're going to see that Ferdinand is even losing control of over his feelings, and he starts to, um, kind of visualize the Duchess in the shameful act of sin. So, according to him, marriage in this case is not legitimate, it is an act of sin. Obviously, these are all justifications so that when he orders her murder and death, um, perhaps he's trying to convince himself that if she's committing a sin, killing her wouldn't be a sin. So, judging from what we see and hear from Ferdinand, we will be having no doubt in our minds that he is the play's principal villain, albeit a fascinating one, because we have another guy competing for this villainy. Obviously, I'm talking about Busola. The two of them are villains, but obviously Ferdinand is the principal villain, but he is a fascinating one in the sense that he is more complex, he is more nuanced, and I mean, till the end, you're so confused by those kinds of feelings that he has for his sister. So Webster's characterization of the Duke of Calabria, Ferdinand, as a man in the grip of unconscious and taboo erotic longings meshes with a modern conception of the instability and irreducible complexity of the human personality. And this is the end of it. And now we're moving to another chapter, which is chapter 4, where we're talking about the tragic conflicts. Um, if we have a conflict, it means that we have two sides. You cannot have a conflict unless you have two sides to this conflict. So obviously, on one side, you have the Duchess, Antonio, and the new ideas that they are embracing. The idea of marrying below your rank or above your rank. This is obviously a new idea, and you have the new idea of this companionate marriage, a marriage as partnership, marriage out of love, a marriage that is based on mutual respect and love. This is a camp, or this is a side. The other side, because it's a conflict, has people like Ferdinand, the Cardinal, Bussola, and of course, on their side, they have the old traditional system, the old norms, the old ideas that um, obviously do not allow um, interracial or mixed marriages. This side believes in class fixity. If you're born on top, you stay on top. If you're born at the bottom of the ladder, you stay there. For them, there is no such thing as social mobility. So the two sides are going to clash, and out of this clash, because it's a tragedy and because it's a revenge tragedy, a lot of blood will be shed. So we have seen kind of hints at this conflict, but we're going to see it intensifying. We have seen it happening uh, um, on a very small scale in Acts 1 and 2, but it's going to intensify in Acts 3 through 5. As the play's tragic conventions take center stage. And this is where the representation of death rather than love will be paramount and will be conspicuous and clear. Um, so we're moving to Act 3, where we have reversal of fortune, and this is also one of the things that we see in tragedies. Reversal of fortune means that we're now moving from happiness to adversity. We're moving from fortune to misfortune. We're moving from a state of uh, bliss, prosperity, to a state of misery, adversity, and death and destruction. So, whose fortune are we talking about? And by fortune here, we mean luck. Whose fate are we talking about? Where there is reversal? Obviously, we're talking about the Duchess. The Duchess was a happily uh, seated monarch, happy and everything, ruling. Everybody loves her, obviously. And then she's moving to a state of misery, a state of torture, a state of uh, adversity where she's going to be eventually killed. Again, this is all because of what she did. And what did she do? She got married below her rank. So here we have another uh, um, encounter between Antonio and Delio in Act 3, Scene 1. And it alerts us to the fact that a considerable amount of time has elapsed or passed since Ferdinand's vow of revenge. So Ferdinand, when he got to know that his sister got married, he uh, said that he will take revenge. So during that time, and then this was ample and enough time for the Duchess to give birth to two more children, a son and a daughter. So obviously, the only reason that we have this scene is to inform us, to make us feel the passage of time. The scene also let us know that Ferdinand has returned to the Duchess court, obviously very angry and furious and everything in between. So when the Duchess and Antonio exit, leaving Ferdinand and Bussola alone on stage, Ferdinand immediately reveals his real state of mind. He has this determination to force confession from her. He wants her to tell him everything. He does something that we don't normally expect of a royal family member. We expect a royal family member to behave in a decent and polite way, but he didn't. He asks for the Duchess' bedchamber. Obviously, he has no business there. Obviously, Busola is going to give him the key without the consent or even the knowledge of the Duchess. Again, he is going to sneak into the room, and obviously, this is out of keeping with royalty. So, people who are in such elevated positions, they don't do that. They don't sneak into other people's rooms. So this is a sign of dwindling in status. We're seeing a gradual decline upon the part of Fernando. So this is the scene where Ferdinand is now in the Duchess' chamber without her knowledge. He is waiting in the wings. Obviously, when we see this happening, when we see the Duchess unaware of that, and she's perhaps preparing herself for bed, our first instinct is to feel fearful for her, to feel very worried because we have we can see Ferdinand in the background, and we're fearful also of his motive. Perhaps he wants to kill her or something. So Webster generates suspense in his readers and spectators by making them aware of the presence of a threat. Of course, the threat here is Ferdinand, of which the characters on stage are oblivious. She doesn't know, obviously. In this scene, the Duchess and Antonio's mutual affection is expressed in sentimental platitudes of true love. Obviously, um, it's two people, they are married and they are in the room. and Fernand is going to come over. Antonio is going to go out for a while, and there is going to be this kind of confrontation between the Duchess and Ferdinand. So it is when Antonio and Criolla decide to play an affectionate joke on the Duchess that she is left alone in her bedchamber and Ferdinand enters. We have, if we are in the theater, we will have visual signals of her isolation and vulnerability. And then we have Ferdinand appearing, um, and this is obviously a major turning point in the play, a moment when a tragic outcome seems inevitable. So obviously, we're seeing this dramatic change of tone, and this is signaled visually, but also linguistically by a change in language. We're changing or we're moving from the easy, informal banter of the first section of the scene between the Antonio and the Duchess. We're seeing this giving way to a very different brand of speech as Ferdinand dominates the proceedings, speaking the majority of lines and twice ordering his sister to be silent. Um, yeah, I mean, obviously, he's very furious and very angry, but he's not as angry as he was when he got the news for the first time. Fernand's language still manages to suggest the depth of the character's anger and agitation. It abounds in rhetorical questions such as virtue, where art thou head? Where are you? Obviously, he is addressing his sister and saying, virtue, where is your virtue? Where has this gone? Um, and this hectoring, self-righteous tone alternates with more overtly violent reproaches. Then he says, die then quickly, and the howling of a wolf is music to the screech owl. So obviously, he is invoking, um, you know, elements of nature and obviously animals and the worst of animals, the wolf and the owl. Again, and this is a sign of decline. So the last quotation shows his habitual fondness for likening human beings to the most negative aspects of the animal world. And then he talks about Antonio. He doesn't see Antonio, and he even declined and rejected the idea that he meets him. The Duchess obviously said, come and meet my new husband. But he said no. Meeting him would provoke such violent effects as would damn us both. He's saying that if I meet him, I'm sure we will be damned, which means that we're going to mutually destroy each other. Um, so he has this in his language. You can almost feel it, this genuine moral anxiety about his own conduct, which indicates that Webster is intent on endowing his principal villain with moral and psychological complexity. So Ferdinand leaves the stage at the end, ignorant of the identity of the Duchess's new husband, though he assures her that she is undone or ruined, and this is something that he said twice. and the fact that he will never see her again. Again, this is very prophetic. This is very anticipatory of the action that he's going to take and initiate, which is the idea of asking Busola to kill her, unfortunately. Again, you cannot help but compare the language of the Duchess to that of Ferdinand. Obviously, Ferdinand's language is very impulsive, there is this lack of control, full of revengeful references, full of animal references. The Dutch's language is different. It's very logical, uh, very convincing even, and very calm. So the Dutch's language in this part of the play contrasts sharply with her brother's. She meets Ferdinand's anger with clear, straightforward statements and questions. And I pray, sir, hear me, I am married. And will you see my husband? This is obviously very calm. This is very forceful. She's telling him, remember, please hear me. I am married. I am married means I didn't do nothing wrong, obviously. Married, this is married. This is legit. This is very legitimate. I am married. I'm not doing something illegitimate. And to even prove that she is confident of the move that she made, she's saying, "Come and see my husband." Well, what's wrong? I mean, we're married. We're legally married. And she objects to Fernand's tone, this moral outrage. She says, "Oh, why might not I marry? I have not gone about in this to create any new word or custom. Why? Why wouldn't I marry? I have, it's as if she's saying, I have every right to marry. I'm not married. At one point, she says, I have some beauty and I have some youth, and I want to marry. What's wrong with that? And she's even, going further by saying, I have not gone about in this to create. I'm not creating a new custom. I'm not by marrying. I'm not creating a new world. I'm not inventing something. Hundreds and thousands of people marry as we speak. Why me? Why not me? This is the argument that she is advancing against her brother. Obviously, she's very convincing if you compare this to what Ferdinand was saying. Ferdinand was all the time threatening, cursing. So obviously, her simplicity of expression captures the irrationality of the brother's prohibition and invites our sympathy. So to marry a second time is indeed not to create any new world. Yeah, she didn't invent the wheel, for example. She's doing what everybody is doing. Again, you would compare what she does with what her husband does. In circumstances like these, in times like these, you would expect the husband to come forward and try to defend his wife, defend the marriage. But what happens with Antonio is that he is perhaps intentionally uh, off stage. He remains off stage throughout her ordeal and re enters carrying a pistol and making threats only once Ferdinand is safely out of the way. Obviously, this is very funny, means that is not capable of the confrontation. So the Duchess, by contrast, has already come up with a plan for dealing with the situation, which she immediately puts into action when Busola turns up on the scene a few lines later. She is ready, she's very resourceful, and she doesn't talk. Obviously, she talks the talk and walks the walk. So her plan, because she knows that there will be consequences, and now that the brothers know all about the marriage, all about the fact that she married to somebody below her rank. So instead of whimpering and sobbing, she started to take matters into her own hands, and she arranged for Antonio and the kids to escaped to a place called Anakana under cover of a trumped up charge. She impressed on everybody that Antonio is crooked, that he has embezzled money, and obviously he escaped for that. Um, and then we leave the Duchess and we go to the reaction of Musola to the charges against Antonio. So obviously, Antonio and Busola are not good friends. They belong to the same class. They are both lowborn, but they obviously don't appreciate each other's presence. Uh, Busola gets to know about the charges leveled against Antonio, and very strangely, he reacted very, um, negatively. So he was very supportive of Antonio. He defends him. Again, you would ask, why would he do that? I mean, the simple reason that he is saying that yesterday Antonio was all over the place. Everybody is speaking very highly of him, and today he fell out of grace. He fell out of favor. He is trying to say that this is the ruling elite. So if they are happy with you, they put you on a pedestal. They say very nice stuff about you. But but if they obviously wake up or get up on the wrong side of the bed, like the saying goes, you can be disgrace. They can accuse you of all kinds of things. Um, so he's obviously suggesting that the ruling elite are whimsical in their decisions. And today it's Antonio, tomorrow perhaps it can be him, Lusola. So he is giving us all of that in a soliloquy. And soliloquy is a dramatic device where a character is left alone on the stage, uh, um, sharing with the audience what he thinks of. Otherwise, we wouldn't know what the character's intentions are and what he thinks of. So one way of getting to know what is inside a character, what he or she is thinking of, is to have a soliloquy. So Busola is left alone on stage to deliver a soliloquy in which he discloses or he reveals to the audience that he is going to tell Ferdinand everything he has just learned. We don't really know whether Busola is sincere in his defense of Antonio. Um, Again, this is typical of Busola. He does something and then contradicts him. He is honest is in his assessment of what happens in the royal court, but he is also part of the conspiracies and the scheming and everything in between. So as you can see, Busola is an ambiguous character, and this is typical of the malcontent. This kind of character who despises courtly corruption, but at the same time is hopelessly implicated in it. Busola and all the malcontented characters want social advancement, but loses the servility that is the only way to rise in the world of the court. We don't believe that Busola admires Antonio, but again, he comes to his defense, I mean, at least verbally. Uh, Again, because he is trying to make a statement about the whimsical nature of the royal court and the ruling elite. Today you are in favor, and tomorrow you fall out of favor. So what happens is that Busola has watched a courtly official, lowborn like himself. He has seen that this official has been dismissed from his office, apparently on the whim of the Duchess, and castigated by other officers who yesterday phoned at him. So obviously Busola felt some kind of indignation. He felt that low-born individuals are acting at the whim of people in high places. So again, if they are happy with you, they put you on a pedestal. But if they are angry with you, it can be very damaging for you, for your reputation, and perhaps your life. So in his soliloquy, Busola characterizes the politician or political schemer as the devil's quilted anvil. So the ingenuity of the metaphor is typical of Busola's linguistic flamboyance, and it bespeaks of a certain amount of self-congratulation. Again, we're stressing the fact that you cannot compare Busola to Iago. Busola is more nuanced, is deeper and more profound. Iago is superficial and is self-confessed. Um, so what is interesting again about Busola is that he does something wrong and then he has those pangs of conscience following. Uh, and this is very strange. I mean, that's why arriving at like an accurate assessment of his character is very difficult. So Musola, like we have always said, wants preferment, and he will, for the time being at least, remain the servant of forces he knows are wicked. But again, Webster is stressing the inner division that makes his court satirist so ambiguous and complex a figure. And then we move on to a characteristic of the revenge tragedy, which is the dumb show. But before we do that, what time is it? Let's take a 10-minute break, and then when we come back, we resume show. So I'll see you in 10 minutes. Okay?
Okay, doctor, see you in 10 minutes.
Ciao. Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, doctor, we can hear you.
Okay. I am back, okay. So let's go to where we stopped. Unless you guys have any questions so far. So far, so good. Enjoying the ride?
Yes.
Nice. Very interesting. So this is where we are. This is perhaps um, it's what can I describe this? We're moving ahead towards the catastrophe. Now that the two brothers know all about what the Duchess did, now that they now know about the identity of the husband, obviously, and the fact that he is below their rank, obviously, they are going to take revenge. Remember, this is obviously living up to the title of the play, the fact that it is a tragedy, and this is also living up to the genre that we said the play is, which is obviously revenge tragedy. So in Act 3, Scene 4, Ferdinand and the Cardinal learn from Bussola the identity of their sister's husband and that her family is seeking sanctuary in or refuge in the state of Anacony. So everyone is going to act in his own way. The Cardinal, because he together with being a cardinal, he is also a soldier. He starts to act in a, mm, I don't know, in a military way. He puts on his attire as a soldier, and he is determined to having the family banished or dismissed. So this part has those two events: the cardinal's return to soldiership and the banishment of the duchess and her family from Anacona. And this is all going to take the form of a dumb show. A dumb show is a performance employing gestures and body movements without words. And obviously, people would ask, isn't the main play enough? Why would we need a show, another play? And of all the shows, it is a dumb show. Dumb means it's silent. What you only see people using their body language, using their facial expressions to communicate ideas. And when you ask why we have that, there is actually a lot of speculation and answers. And one of them would be that sometimes, you know, not speaking is a statement in and of itself. Sometimes silence is more telling than speech, um, and 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 sometimes I mean, the amount of interpretations and meaning that you can come out with seeing somebody using his hands and his facial expressions, the amount of interpretation and meanings can be perhaps bigger than when he or she actually speaks. So by removing speech and focusing instead on mimed action, the dumb show achieves a highly symbolic pictorial style of theatrical representation. It's very symbolic, and obviously the meaning is going to be up for grabs because it can be even, obviously it's going to be more than the meaning that you would glean out of people saying directly something. So, because meaning is conveyed through spectacle rather than words, we are distant from the action, rather than encouraging us to get caught up in the emotions of the characters. The visual tableau asks us instead to step back and evaluate the moral implications of what is happening on screen. This is also another purpose or another reason we're having the dumb show. In order, the writer is trying to distance us from, we've been too close to the events. We go up with what happens and we go down with what also happens. Obviously, he's trying to disengage us from this emotional entanglement by having this dumb show. Where does whatever happens in the dumb show happens? It happens in a religious shrine of all the places, where we have solemn music sung by diverse churchmen. So we watch as the cardinal shares the symbols of his religious vocation, a cross and a hat, robes and ring, and he takes on the trappings of a soldier: sword, helmet, shield, and spurs. This is obviously is meant to give us a vivid visual confirmation of the superficiality of his religious vocation and the ecclesiastical corruption he has constantly represented. Um, so obviously a part of also the mimed action, we have this mimed action of the Duchess' banishment, giving a central place to another symbol, her wedding ring, which her brother removes from her finger with violence. So the dumb show is framed up by the dialogue of two pilgrims who begin by anticipating a noble ceremony and end in a state of some distress, exchanging anxious questions and judgments about the ceremonies they have just witnessed. So we have two characters, and they are obviously two pilgrims to the shrine where the dumb show takes place, and obviously they are acting like members of a chorus. They are commenting on what is happening. They don't entirely acquit or exonerate the Duchess. They say that she's partly to blame. And they would ask questions like, who would have thought so great a lady would have matched herself unto so mean a person? Obviously, they are upholding this rule of class fixity and the idea that people have to stick to their own places. So they don't entirely exonerate or acquit her or absolve her of the guilt. But they have this strongest disapproval reserved for the brothers, uh, because they have treated uh, a free prince, obviously a reference to the Duchess, in a very humane way, banishing a free prince solely on her brother's instigation. They are totally against her. So obviously we don't know the names of those pilgrims. And obviously, this is also meant to establish a physical bond with the audience, which encourages us to believe in their objectivity. They observe and depart, objectify and comment on the action, distancing and interpreting as we do. So obviously, the commentary on the action invites us to grasp the moral and political significance of the Dutch's banishment rather than her own experience of it. It represents her and her family as the victims of institutional conspiracy. So as you can see, we have different or a diverse uh, plethora of devices. We have modern devices like, I mean, the realism that we're seeing happening, the issues that are very relatable during the time. And we also have medieval devices like the dumb show, which is meant to create this distance between us and what is happening on the stage. Again, we need to always remember that this is all part of the early modern tragedies. We're moving towards the torture and the subsequent death of the Duchess, the punishment that she receives for her forbidden love and marriage. She is imprisoned in her palace. She is exposed to a dead man's hand, complete with wedding ring, a wax tableau of her husband and children, presented to her as their dead bodies. Obviously, this is all fake because they are still alive. And finally, there is this dance of madmen. Again, you would ask, why would Webster choose to state the Dutch's suffering and death in this way? Obviously, this is also part of the conventions of the revenge tragedy. Again, uh, the play is or follows a long line of revenge tragedies that were common during the time. We have Thomas Kidd's The Spanish Tragedy. We have, of course, the pioneer of those kinds of tragedies or revenge tragedy rather was the Roman playwright and philosopher Seneca. And then in the Elizabethan age and Renaissance, you have people like Thomas Kidd and his Spanish tragedy. Typically, in Kidd's plays and in other revenge tragedies during the time, we have his revenger hero, you know, uh, present on the stage, and we have this culmination of his quest for revenge. So you have his revenger villain stage, a play for his victim complete with props like the dead man's hand, the wax effigies of Antonio and the children, and on stage entertainment by madmen. These are all typical elements of revenge tragedies. And as Kidd's hero interrupts his play uh, for the on-stage audience, Bussola does exactly the same. Bussola, after the revelation of the wax figures, explains to the Duchess the meaning of what he has just witnessed. And this is a quotation, a long one by Bussola. He, and obviously he's referring to Ferdinand, he does present you this sad spectacle that now you know directly they are dead. Hereafter you may wisely cease to grieve for that which cannot be recovered. Again, this is all psychological torture and torment. So, in revenge tragedies, normally the revenge takes the form of a theatrical spectacle. It's a play within a play. So, as you can see, Fernand is using the theater as a tool of control, with all what comes with it. I mean, the effigies and the tools that they are using in order to strangle the Duchess. So as you can see, Webster shows us that his aristocratic villain, Fernand, uses theater as an instrument of control. And then we have a whole act devoted to the torture and murder of the Duchess. And here the Duchess' death takes on an enormous significance. The difference between the Cardinal and Ferdinand here is that Ferdinand is obviously not satisfied with only murdering his sister. He wants to break her spirit and bring her to despair before he kills her. And again, we're moving towards what is happening with the Duchess, the torture, and following death. And then we have the Duchess in her, you know, final moments before she dies. She talks about lots of things. She talks about her Christian beliefs. She talks about the fact that she's going to meet uh, uh, her loved ones in the hereafter. So there shouldn't be any room for sadness. I mean, for example, she is facing the imminent separation from Antonio and the kids, saying that in the eternal church, sir, I do hope we shall not part thus. So this is giving a message of hope. Um, she believes in divine providence, which sees God's hand at work in all human suffering. She expresses her faith not with the schooled responses of the regular and obedient churchgoer, but in a deeply personal, almost idiosyncratic fashion. She hopes that she will be reunited with Antonio after they die. And this is very interesting. She asks Criolla, dost thou think we shall know one another in the other world? And she's obviously deeply religious. Again, another revelation would be the fact that she, in spite of all the suffering that she is going through, she still believes that she's very strong. She's saying, I am Duchess of Malfi still. This is seen as a reaffirmation of identity, clearly resistant to Bussola's assault on human pride. And obviously, Bussola, when those who are going to kill her approaches her with carrying a coffin and cords and a bell, Bussola is asking her whether she is afraid that um, and she is very obviously she doesn't hesitate. She tells him, "Who would be afraid on it, knowing to meet such excellent company in the other world?" She has such confidence and faith that um, I mean, death is obviously not the end of things, and then the fact that she's be reunited with her loved one in the hereafter. Obviously, religion is not the only source of the Duchess' strength of character. She welcomes death as a release from intolerable suffering. She welcomes it because she is also an aristocrat, and aristocrats, according to her, should also be very strong in the face of adversity. So it's about this aristocratic concept of honor. which would enable her, or which makes the capacity to face the terror of death without flinching, the measure of individual heroism. So these are obviously masculine, or traditionally these are masculine qualities, but obviously she's showing them. Another example of how different she is. She's obviously turning the concepts of heroism or masculine heroism on its head, creating in the process a character who has been called the first fully tragic woman in Renaissance drama. And then she dies, and the moment she dies, Bussola is hit with those feelings of guilt. He tries to, she momentarily comes back to life, and he tries to tell her, no, this is all a show, and your husband is alive, and but obviously she is going to die anyway. Um, what happened afterwards is very interesting, where we have obviously Bussola going to Ferdinand and telling him that I did this and that and I killed her. Ferdinand is obviously feeling guilty. He tries to distance himself from Bussola. He does not admit that he ordered him to do anything. And that would push Bussola to take revenge from everybody, pretty much everyone. And that would trigger a series of uh, killings where everybody is obviously going to kill everybody else. So Fernand's refusal to recompense Bussola stems from a comparably powerful sense of the horror of the deed, coupled with a denial of any responsibility for it. So obviously, here we have an example of a ruler who claims the servant for committing the murder he supported. Uh, Obviously, he ordered it. And this is obviously a grotesque distortion of the courtly ideal as given at the start of the play. And again, Ferdinand's extreme reaction to the Duchess' death testifies to his mounting mental instability and decline. And here are examples of the amount of perhaps regret that he is feeling, but he is hiding. Um, he tells, obviously, Bussola, cover her face, mine eyes dazzle. She died young. And these are all the words of Bussola, and they can almost reveal the fact that he has lost. I don't know, perhaps he's sad. After all, she is his sister, and also perhaps he's showing bouts of regret. So by the close of the scene, he is falling apart, deteriorating into the lunacy that will characterize him in Act 5. And then we move to Act 5. And what is interesting about Act 5 is that we don't have the Duchess, the tragic heroine. The Duchess was killed in Act 4, and this is something that we're not familiar with, that's something that we're not used to. We're used to the tragic hero remaining until the end of the play. He gets killed, it is true at the end, but it is in Act 5. So to kill the tragic heroine in Act 4 is obviously like a mistake that lots of critics, especially the feminists among them, would kind of blame Webster for. So Webster has been rebuked, especially by feminist critics, for killing off his heroine at the end of Act 4 and not at the end of the play, as is normally the fate of tragic heroes. And then when you go to Act 5, of course, the queen or the duchess was uh, a light, was a shining star. And obviously, now that we don't have it in Act 5, everything collapses and is disintegrating. So many critics have been frankly baffled by the tone of Act 5, which seems to be aiming not for the high seriousness one expects of a tragedy, but for a kind of black comedy. So it's a farce where everybody is killing everybody else. So you don't really know what Webster was trying to achieve in Act 5. Why write a tragedy with a tragic heroine who is absent from the entire last act? This is a question that lots of people are asking. And then, obviously, Webster knows that, you know, not having the tragic heroine totally or entirely from Act 5 would be dramatically not correct. That's why we have mention of the Duchess. We have people kind of thinking or imagining her speak to them in a very famous act that we call the echo scene. So one of the main points of this scene is to convey to readers and spectators the Duchess' continued presence in the world of the play, and otherwise the whole fabric will collapse. And we have examples of people saying that they hear her, they still see her. Again, she's dead, of course. We have Busola saying, for example, still methinks the Duchess haunts me. So the echo scene is in a very real sense another haunting. So of course we're all aware of the fact that she's dead. And again, this supernatural element is meant to tell us that she's still there. Again, having those supernatural elements is also one of the conventions of revenge tragedy. Ghosts often haunt revenge tragedies, bring messages to the living from beyond the grave. And then we have the moment of reckoning where everybody is obviously paying the price of their deeds or perhaps misdeeds. And we're starting with Ferdinand, where he's being punished very severely for his, transgression against God. Let me put it this: murdering and ordering the murder of innocent people is no small thing. So he's psychologically devastated. He is turning into a lunatic or a mad person. He has this lycanthropy, which is obviously a condition where you have this delusion in which you imagine yourself to be a wolf or other wild animal. So his belief that he has been transformed into a wolf whose skin is hair on the inside rather than the outside clearly manifests a mental collapse attendant on the murder of the Duchess. So he is driven mad by guilt and a self-repulsion that convicts him of being no better than the most vicious of animals. So obviously this condition is at once a judgment on his appalling cruelty and a reminder of the flickering moral awareness that has always been part of his character. He is convinced not only that he has turned into a wolf, but that he is damned. And then we move on to the cardinal, who is also very consumed with guilt, um, but he never stops plotting and murdering. He dispatches Bussola to assassinate Antonio, and he murders Julia, the mistress of whom he has grown weary by having her kiss a poisoned Bible. So again, these are all conventions of the revenge tragedy. He has a bad conscience. He feels that, of course, that whatever he did was, of course, wrong, and he, uh, engages in a number of soliloquies where he is shown to be unable to even pray. He does not believe anymore in the efficacy of the prayers that he gives. Um, in one of those soliloquies, he is so despondent and he is so desperate, and he knows that he will not escape the fires of hell. Um, and I mean, he makes it very clear that he is destined for hell. Again, he is still different from Ferdinand. Ferdinand is totally psychologically uh, uh, over, but the cardinal is still uh, functioning and things, but he knows very well that he is going to hell. And then we have Bussola. He hunted by haunted to the Duchess, the fact that he is the one who killed her. And all his attempts at repentance are obviously failing. Um, he's trying to protect Antonio from the cardinal's homicidal intentions, but he ends up inadvertently doing the cardinal's bidding. He kills Antonio by mistake, which would obviously add and augment his feeling of guilt. And this is obviously a comment on Bussola's quest for redemption, as if God does not want to accept his redemption and feeling of guilt. He is, after all, a hired assassin. Again, what is perhaps very strange about this act is that the whole act turns into a savage farce where, like I told you, everybody is killing it after everybody. This wild comedy escalates in scene 5 as Bussola, bent on revenge, closes on the cardinal, whose screams for help are ignored by the courtiers who believe they come from the mad Ferdinand. So again, mistaken identities and it's a farce. And then you have Ferdinand, um, you know, because he's a mad guy, he thinks that he's in a battlefield and his brother is the enemy, and he ends up killing his brother and killing Bussola. And then Bussola stabs and kills Finn. So again, it's everybody killing everybody else. And then this is perhaps the play coming full circle, where you have the different characters, especially the evil characters, commenting on what they have been doing, and obviously coming to the conclusion that it was all not worth their while. life does not is not worth what they have been doing. I mean, the idea that it's all futile. So by the end of the play, the stage is littered with corpses. And this is also typical in Renaissance tragedy. So the play turned into a dark comedy. Um, and again, we're now looking at the dying words of the character, Bussola, for example. Bussola speaks about the fact that obviously he speaks about human beings. He says that we are merely the stars' tennis balls, struck and banded, which way please them. He is saying that we are mere playthings in the hands of the stars. Or by the stars, obviously here he means fate and destiny. In other words, human beings have no free will and no real significance. We are simply the playthings of probably malevolent cosmic forces. And then we move on to Ferdinand, um, talking about similar uh, things, but perhaps this is not cosmic or not as cosmic as it was with uh, Bisola. Um, and he's obviously addressing his sister, his dead sister, saying, "My sister, oh my sister, there is the course on it. Whether we fall by ambition, blood, or lust, like diamonds, we are cut with our own dust." I mean, he's trying to simply say that we are prisoners of our own temperaments. We're driven by forces, passions, and instincts over which we have minimum control. We are our, moods, are obviously our destiny. Uh, our temperaments are our destiny. There is no way we can overcome that. Even if we pretend that we have control, we don't have any. So as you can see, Fernand is focusing on the human personality while Bussola is focusing on the cosmos. But the two characters agree that human beings exert precious little control over what they do. And we also have Antonio. Again, talking about the vanity of human wishes and ambitions. Also warning his son against being part of that. In all our quest of greatness, like wanton boys whose pastime is their care, we follow after bubbles blown in the air. He's saying that life is a bubble, and obviously, when you pursue and follow a bubble, it just explodes at one point, obviously pointing to nothingness, the futility of human endeavors. And he's also warning his son of doing the same thing, following the bubble, which is royal courts and stuff. And Cardinal is no different. Um, Perhaps he's focused on his own insignificance. And now I pray, let me be laid by and never thought of. Yeah, this is basically what the whole play is about. Act 5 without the Duchess is reduced to mere farce. It's not the dignified tragedy that we're familiar with during the first few acts. This is basically perhaps the end where you have children and you have the son of the Duchess and Antonio appearing. That can give hope that a new generation can come out and perhaps learn a lesson or two from what happens and act differently. So again, what kind of tragedy is the Duchess of Malfi? This is a question that we keep asking. What kind of character is the Duchess of Malfi? Are we with her in what she did, or are we against her? So this is the end of the whole thing about the Duchess of Malfi. I know that was a little bit long, but interesting. So if you have any questions, come to the mic. Okay, so you don't have any. So when is the midterm?
On Wednesday.
On
Next
Wednesday.
Yeah.
Wednesday, right?
Right.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Which means, yeah, which means we still
25
have, we can meet on not Sunday, because Sunday is off, right? Is officially off, but we can meet
Yeah.
on Monday. And we can have a revision class on Monday. But what time do you think is fit? Monday at 10 p.m. I think at 10 p.m. I will have a workshop. This is something that I want to talk to you about. We will have a number of workshops on soft skills and critical thinking and AI. I would like you to attend. I don't know, perhaps you're busy, but they are going to be light-hearted and very nice, and I don't want you to miss them. But if they are going to interfere with your preparation for the midterm, that's fine, don't attend. But if you would like to attend, that's fine too. So let's think of
Dr.
Monday.
Har-
Let me finish, Haya, and then I'll allow you to speak. So we can meet on Monday. I have a class at 10 a.m. So it's going to be, I don't think, according to Ramadan's time, if it's 10 a.m., it becomes, I think, 11 or something. So we can meet at 2 if you like. Would you like us to meet at 2 p.m. On Monday? Would that be fine with you?
No, I have the master class because I have also revision. My mid in day. Yes.
Sorry.
If after is 8 p.m. Not problem. After prior Isha.
And the problem is that I'll be preparing for the workshops that I'm telling you about. But can we have it like it's really helpful. طيب. Can we make it at like مثلا can we have it at مثلا 3:30 and we finish at 5?
Yes, not a problem for me.
Would 3:30 p.m. on Monday be fine and convenient for everyone? ممتاز. طيب خلاص. I would like you to tell everybody so that they don't miss the revision class. And I still believe that you will gain a lot if you attend the workshops that I'm telling you about. خلينا بس نشوف before we proceed. Haya, you wanted to let me stop the recording because we don't need it anymore.